Last week I found a phone in my wife's car. It wasn't hers. At least, that's what she said. I was unloading groceries from the trunk, and it caught my eye. A sleek black phone, wedged under the passenger seat, the screen cracked just slightly in one corner. A small notification blinked. One new message. I froze. My hands hovered over it. Then I pushed the cart forward and pretended I hadn't seen a thing. It's not like I didn't know Claire's habits. She's meticulous. Everything in its place. Her bag always zipped. Phone never out of sight. That's why this was shocking. Hidden. Secret. My stomach twisted, not with anger yet. Just fear, confusion. I didn't touch it again that day. I drove home with a tight chest, heart hammering, trying to tell myself it was probably some work-related thing she forgot to mention. But my brain wouldn't let it go. I could see the phone, hear its quiet little beep in my mind, feel the way it looked under the seat like it belonged to a stranger. That night, Claire was herself. Quiet, smiling, doing the bedtime routine with Sophie. I said nothing. I poured a glass of wine, sat on the couch, and watched the little domestic scene unfold. My daughter humming while brushing her teeth, Claire adjusting her hair in the bathroom mirror. Normal. But I couldn't shake the image of that phone. I kept thinking about how long it had been there, what it meant, why I hadn't seen it before. My chest tightened every time I imagined her picking it up, texting, talking. I kept glancing at her while she laughed at Sophie's silly stories. Was it really nothing? Or had I just stumbled on a door to something I wasn't ready to open? By the next morning, things started to feel off. Claire moved differently. She guarded her bag, her coat, even her coffee mug. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I caught her staring at her phone a few times, then quickly slipping it into her pocket when she noticed me looking. Dinner that night was awkward. Sophie chattered about school, about her science project, about soccer practice. Claire nodded absently, barely engaging. I kept asking questions, trying to keep the conversation going, but the answers were clipped. It felt like walking on a thin sheet of ice. One wrong move, and everything would break. I tried convincing myself I was imagining it. She could be tired, stressed from work, anything. But the more I tried to rationalize, the more anxious I became. My mind kept circling back to that phone. Was it cheating? Was it me seeing things that weren't there? Over the next few days, her behavior became noticeable. Little things at first. Claire would walk out of the room if I picked up my phone, even if I was just checking emails. She started locking the bedroom door when changing, which had never been a thing before. Her coffee mug always stayed in her hand. Her phone never left her side. I caught myself watching her like a detective, counting the seconds she spent texting, the way she answered calls in other rooms. I hated that I was doing it, hated myself for thinking the worst. But I couldn't stop. I started noticing patterns I hadn't cared about before. She always smiled at her messages, even when I was in a room. She had moments of silence that lasted too long, fingers drumming nervously against her bag. One evening, Sophie ran in, holding a drawing. "Mom, look what I made." Claire glanced down quickly, smiled faintly, and said, "That's beautiful, sweetie." Her eyes flicked to the phone on the counter, then back to Sophie. That little glance felt like betrayal. Not the child's fault, not anyone's fault, but it tightened a knot in my chest. Later that night, Claire went to bed earlier than usual. I stayed up, staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction from the day. Every laugh, every smile, every silence. I felt paranoid, exhausted, and oddly guilty for doubting her. My thoughts kept returning to the phone under the car seat. What was she hiding? Was it my fault somehow? Did I miss signs, hints, messages I was too blind to see? I tried talking to a friend over text. "Hey, can I talk? Something weird's happening at home." A few minutes later, he replied, "Sure, you okay?" "Not really. Just worried. Don't know if I'm imagining things." He sent a heart emoji. I put my phone down, feeling some relief, but the worry lingered, gnawing at me quietly like a background I couldn't switch off. By the end of the week, I realized I hadn't slept properly in days. Every time the house was quiet, I felt tension rising, imagining Claire texting, calling, hiding things. Even Sophie's laughter sometimes sounded distant, as if I was in a bubble separate from them. I didn't confront her yet, not because I trusted her blindly. I wasn't sure what trust even looked like anymore, but because I wanted to understand first. I wanted proof before breaking the fragile surface of our life. I started noticing things I hadn't before, little inconsistencies that didn't make sense. Claire's phone would light up at odd hours, and she'd quickly slip it into her bag or under a pillow. I saw receipts on the counter that didn't match anything I recognized. Emails from strange addresses popped up on the family computer. At first, I told myself to relax. Maybe it was work. Maybe it was a friend I didn't know about. But the tension in my chest refused to let me believe that. Every night, lie awake in bed, I'd hear the faint buzz of notifications in my mind, even if her phone was in the kitchen or her bag. I started jotting things down. Nothing dramatic, Just small notes, times of calls, lengths of messages, odd patterns. I felt ridiculous, obsessive, but I couldn't stop. My mind kept returning to that phone under the car seat. The image burned into my brain. One night, I went through some of her work receipts while she showered. I wasn't looking for evidence of cheating. I honestly wasn't sure what I was looking for. But there it was, a pattern of anonymous donations, emails from support groups, strange forum usernames I didn't recognize. My pulse quickened. I stopped short. I didn't want to dig further. But my curiosity, mixed with anxiety, wouldn't let me. I needed to know, needed to make sense of the tension, the distance, the little glances she gave her phone. Sleep became impossible. Every noise in the house startled me. The creak of the floorboards, Sophie's cough, Claire moving around. I started sitting up at 3 a.m., scrolling my own phone, staring at the ceiling, imagining conversations I wasn't a part of. Self-doubt crept in. Had I missed signs earlier in our marriage? Had I been blind to her struggles? Or was there something she was actively hiding from me? Even at work, I was distracted. My coworker noticed. "You look exhausted. Everything okay?" "Yeah, just tired," I mumbled. I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't explain that my own wife was a stranger hiding a part of her life from me. The house felt different. Not unsafe, exactly, but heavy. I would sit on the couch while Claire was cooking, pretending to read, noticing every little movement, every small gesture. Every smile at a text made my stomach twist. I questioned myself constantly. Was I imagining it? Was I overreacting? Or was this the first sign of something falling apart? The tension reached a point where I couldn't even look at her phone casually. I didn't want to know what was on it, and yet I had to. My mind was a storm of fear, guilt, and confusion. Every ordinary moment became charged with suspicion. Every laugh, every sigh, every whisper word felt like a potential clue. And I realized with a sinking feeling that this wasn't going to resolve on its own. The secret, whatever it was, had to come out. It took me nearly 3 weeks of quiet suspicion before I finally asked Claire directly. We were sitting at the kitchen table after Sophie had gone to bed, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge. My hands were trembling slightly, and I felt ridiculous for even asking, but the tension had been building too long. "Claire, I need to know something." I started, voice low. She looked up from her tea, eyes wide, lips pressed together. "It's about the phone." She froze. I could see her face shift through a dozen emotions, surprise, panic, guilt, before settling into something softer, something vulnerable. I should have told you," she said finally. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I didn't want you to worry. I didn't want you to think less of me. I didn't know how." I waited. My chest felt tight, my stomach a knot of anxiety. What is it, Claire?" She took a deep breath. "The phone, it's mine, yes. But it's not what you think. I've been dealing with some things. Things I couldn't tell anyone, not even you. After Sophie was born, I struggled with depression and anxiety. It wasn't the normal kind of sadness. Some days I couldn't get out of bed. Some nights I cried until my eyes were swollen. I didn't want you to see me like that. I didn't want to scare you. I just needed a place to talk, to process, to get help." I blinked. My mind reeled. All the late nights, all the nervous glances, all the secrets I had imagined, none of them were about someone else. None of them were betrayal. "The phone," she continued. "It's for a support group. Anonymous chats, counseling sessions online. I needed a lifeline, somewhere I could be honest without feeling judged. I didn't want it to affect our family, so I hid it. The relief that washed over me was immediate, but it was mixed with guilt for doubting her, for letting my imagination run wild, for turning ordinary moments into a minefield of suspicion. I had no idea. I whispered. I thought you were hiding something from me. Something else." She reached across the table, taking my hand. "I know, and I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner. I wanted to protect you. Protect us. But in doing that, I hurt you too. I see that now." We sat there in silence for a long time, just holding hands, both of us breathing slowly, letting the weight of the past week settle. The anger, the fear, the suspicion, they all seemed to evaporate just slightly in that quiet moment. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a movie where everything is wrapped up neatly, but it was real, honest, vulnerable. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like we were connecting again, not just existing under the same roof. The next few days were quiet, but different. Not the tense, suspicious quiet that had filled our home for weeks, but a tentative, careful kind of quiet. Claire and I didn't talk about everything at once. It wasn't some miraculous fix, and there were still moments where I felt that old anxiety creeping in. But we were talking, really talking. We started with small things. Coffee in the morning, Sophie's breakfast, mundane routines that suddenly felt charged with meaning. Claire would mention a chat from a support group or a new coping technique she learned, and I would just listen. No judgment. No questions I wasn't ready to ask. Just listening. One evening, after putting Sophie to bed, I asked her, "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why hide it for so long?" She sighed, rubbing her temples. "I thought it would change how you see me. I thought you'd worry, maybe resent me for not being strong enough. I didn't realize that hiding it would hurt you more than the truth. I was scared. I admit it. I was scared of losing you. Of losing us. I let my mind go places it shouldn't have, and I accused you in my head of things that weren't true." She reached across the table, took my hand again. "I know, and I forgive you. It's okay to be scared. You were trying to protect what we have, just like I was in my own way. We didn't have all the answers. Some of the anxiety would linger. Some of the unspoken worries might never fully disappear. But for the first time in months, we were facing it together. Not in secret, not with suspicion, not with fear, together." Sophie ran into the kitchen with her homework, laughing, asking for help with a math problem. We both helped her, and in that small, ordinary moment, I realized that this shared life, imperfect and messy, was worth the struggle, worth the fear, worth the honesty it finally took to start rebuilding. I'm still scared of what I don't know, but for the first time in months, we're finally talking.